and welcome to Duro Oz Pro TV. Today we're going to be talking about a lure in the Strike Pro range called the Micro Vibe. This little 25mm resin vibe is a superb vibe, in particular for targeting species like brim. And one of the things with this little lure is don't discount its size, because this lure sure catches a lot of big fish. The Strike Pro Micro Vibe is a superb lure when fishing around a lot of structure, in particular things like pontoons, jetties, boat hulls and marinas. And this lure is very effective in waterways in Victoria, like the Patterson River or Docklands or areas like Paynesville. It also works very well in waterways like Sylvania waters, the canals around the Gold Coast where there's a lot of moorings there, areas like West Lakes in South Australia, or also the marinas and man-made canals of the Mandurah area of Western Australia. But this little lure will work in any of those waterways throughout Australia that have those structure throughout their systems. The Strike Pro Micro Vibe comes in at 2.6 gram, and it comes rigged just with a little single treble on the back, which is a little Owner ST11. Now the reason for this is if we put too heavy a treble on the back here, it counterbalances the lure, so we don't get that fantastic shimmy on the drop because it is weighted in the nose. So this has a beautiful action on the drop, and with that lighter treble that allows the tail to really wiggle. Now what we have found is if you do want to upgrade the trebles and change them over, one of the best trebles that you could use apart from the Owner ST11 is the Daiichi Death Trap trebles in a size 12. They fit these lures perfectly and they don't overweight the lure as well. Now one of the things with the Micro Vibe is when it shimmies and sinks to the bottom, it always falls and sits on its nose. It doesn't fall on its side. So that's one of the key features why this lure is so effective, is what it looks like in a lot of situations is it looks like a little bait fish or a little creature on the bottom just grubbing and feeding along the bottom, and predatory fish like brim will come and hit it to get it out of their zone or their area that they're protecting.
The Micro Vibe is available in 12 fantastic colours, including 2 outstanding new colours for season 2020.
Now let's go and hit the water and we'll show you how these work. Now when using a lure like the Strike Pro Micro Vibe, it does need specific techniques. I like to use a rod that's around that 7-foot range in a 1 to 3 kilo, and I run generally a 5-pound or 6-pound braid with a leader of a similar breaking strain in fluorocarbon of around 3 metres. I like to use a braid that's high vis for the reason that you do get a lot of takes on the drop, so you can actually see any takes on the drop with a high vis braid by seeing the line move. But otherwise, what I generally will do is I'll throw it up onto a pontoon, in particular in my local waterway, the Patterson River, where most of the pontoons are concrete. So I can hop it up on there and then just slowly skip it off and let it sink into the shade. And always try to concentrate fishing into the shaded areas rather than into the bright sunshine, as that's where the fish are hiding in cover. I'll let the lure sink to the bottom, and one of the things that I do with it is when it sinks to the bottom, I'll let it generally sit there for around 20 seconds before I even move it, which seems like a long time, but in the system that I fish a lot with them, the fish will actually, you'll see the fish hovering under the pontoon, feeding on the mussels and stuff under the pontoon, and they follow that lure down. And what I believe happens is if they follow it down and you let it sink to the bottom and then you move it too quickly, the fish spook off it. What they have a tendency of doing when you leave it sit there is they'll actually come and sit on the lure. And what happens most of the time is I'll go to lift that lure from my first little hop and I'll just feel dead weight, and the fish actually just sitting on that micro vibe, and then I just strike and then I'm into the fish straight away. And I'd say 90% of the fish are caught that way. The other 10% would be caught by just doing very, very small hops, again of only 1 to 2 inches. So after that 20-second delay, I'll generally just do 1 or 2 very, very small hops, let it sink back down to the bottom, let it rest for about 5 to 10 seconds before repeating the process. Once I've moved it about halfway back out from the structure, I'll generally just rip it back in and then cast it back out, because you're fishing a specific type of location where the fish are hiding in the structure. It's very rare that they'll come all the way out and take it basically at the edge of your boat or at the edge of your kayak. But it's not to say that they won't do that. So again, experiment with techniques and retrieves and see what's working for you on the day. And once you've honed in on a technique that's working, persist with that and you should increase your catch rate for the day. Strike Pro Micro Vibe has helped me land ridiculous amount of large fish throughout Australia in those locations that I mentioned earlier, in particular around man-made structures and pontoons and jetties and pontoons. And it's a lure that has become a must-have for the brim angler targeting fish in those areas. So next time you're about to hit the water and you're hitting those types of locations, make sure you've got some of these fantastic Strike Pro Micro Vibes in your tackle box.